Hi, I'm Will, and I need to read more Superman. That catchphrase brought to you by Jeffrey Smith. Thank you, Jeffrey, for exposing the faults in my comic knowledge. Welcome back, folks, to another Nerd Venture. Will here. As you heard, we're going to be starting from now on, when I get them from patrons, that is, catchphrases at the start of every video. If you would like to make me say anything you want and submit a catchphrase for the video, for catchphrases for the channel, and any little tidbits like that, please consider subscribing to the Patreon. There's a rank where you can just, make me say anything. So thank you, Jeffrey, for letting people know that I don't know that much about Superman. Moving on. Today, we are going to do a little haul. Not that little, I guess. Just a couple things that I've been picking up recently. I haven't talked about what I've picked up in a little while outside of the Baltimore Comic-Con stuff. So I figured I would do a little thing with this stack next to me, just to show you where my collecting mentality is at the moment. There's certainly some themes going on in here. There's basically only like, there's a good bit of books, but there's really only like 4 kind of themes that are going on. So I'm going to start with like the most normal and then move kind of into sort of more niche stuff, at least things that I find to be quite interesting and what I am trying to pick up recently. So please let me know what your guys' recent pickups have been. Get anything cool from in-stock trades, eBay, or otherwise. And without further ado, let us dive right in to this first stack of books, which are all DC Infinite Crisis related paperbacks. I am not someone who usually collects paperbacks. However, I have been looking forward to reading Infinite Crisis for the last little while. It was a series done by Jeff Johns, I believe, and I don't know who exactly penciled it. Maybe Ivan Reyes, but I might be totally mistaking that. Either way, mid-2000s crossover series with DC. There's an omnibus of it, which is now long out of print, but the omnibus is lovely because it collects both the main series as well as a lot of the tie-ins that you need to apparently make it a little bit more sense. I hate this about modern comics. I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. I don't like that you can't just have a story without reading fucking 8 different books to set it up and to cross over while it's going on and then to close it out for the next thing. I don't like that, okay? It's my personal opinion. If you love crossover events, please explain to me why you love them, because I just find that they are a waste of time, money, and energy to track down and get everything together. I just don't like it. So, unfortunately, because the Infinite Crisis Omnibus is both out of print and not like that great in terms of the construction, like it's kind of a shoddy earlier printed omnibus, I'm not going to go for that. I'm not going to, and like it's selling for like $500 money, like pretty big money online, So I'm not going that route. There is going to be an Absolute Edition release of Infinite Crisis later this year, or maybe early 2017. I don't know the date off the top of my head. I think it's later this year. But unfortunately, the Absolute Edition only contains the, issues that are Infinite Crisis themselves, and maybe like 1 or 2 other kind of things that are essential to the Infinite Crisis continuity, just the event itself. It does not contain all of these books, which I have next to me, which I found from a lovely site called Crisis to Crisis. I believe if you go to Crisis and then 2 and then crisis.com, or just search Crisis to Crisis, you'll be able to find a website which gives you the reading order of everything from Crisis on Infinite Earths back in the 80s all the way up through Infinite Crisis in like the mid-2000s. And it's actually a really super awesome website because you can choose to see everything. You can choose to see, crossover things only. You can choose to see tie-ins only. And I chose personally to see essentials only. So I basically went to that website, clicked on the essentials only tab, and got it to sort me out the essential things I need to understand Infinite Crisis, from Crisis on Infinite Earths up to Infinite Crisis. So most of what I have here are things designed to facilitate that understanding, and I think they are mostly prequels to Infinite Crisis. This one is the Day of Vengeance book from Bill Willingham, Judd Winnick, Ian Churchill, and Ian Churchill Justiano, I guess is his last name. So this is a book, I guess, dealing with Spectre, it looks like. And this is one of the series, you know, a lot of these trade paperbacks have the Countdown to Infinite Crisis right on the front there. So that's one of them. There's also the Ran Thanagar War. Sorry, I'm not super familiar with that thing exactly. Ran Thanagar War, written by Dave Gibbons, Ivan Reyes, and Mark Campos, another Countdown to Infinite Crisis book. There's the OMAC project, which I've heard is like one of the more essential ones in terms of understanding the Infinite Crisis stuff, and this is from Greg Rucka, Jesus Saiz, and Cliff Richards. Another trade paperback. There is the Infinite Crisis Companion, which this, I think, actually is like a series of issues. So this is where it gets confusing to me, right? So I listed all those things off that I just listed to you. Apart from those things, which are prequels, there's also like one-shot issues of all of those, which are Crisis crossovers. So, for example, I just showed you the Day of Vengeance prequel book. There's also a Day of Vengeance Infinite Crisis Special #1. There's also a Ran Thanagar War Infinite Crisis Special #1. There's also an OMAC Project Infinite Crisis Special #1. It's confusing as fuck, okay? I don't like digging through all this stuff, but basically, those were prequel books that I showed you previously. This book collects the Infinite Crisis specials that were like continuations of those stories while Infinite Crisis was going on. So this is the companion that is a side-by-side thing to Infinite Crisis. Then we have Teen Titans Outsiders, which I think is somewhat of a crossover between stuff that was going on honestly, I don't really know. I'm not sure. I think it has to do something with like what Jeff Johns was doing at the beginning of his Teen Titans run, and then it comes back to affect the Infinite Crisis. I don't know. I haven't read it yet, so fuck me. And then JLA Crisis of Conscience, which is the tie-up to Identity Crisis, which I have somewhere behind me. Identity Crisis. This was not in my stack, but I did actually pick this up as part of my Infinite Crisis read-through. I think Identity Crisis is like sort of the beginning of like modern DC Crisis stuff, if I am understanding it correctly. The events of this then go on to trickle into a bunch of stuff. JLA Crisis of Conscience is what closes up the events of Identity Crisis, and then this preps you once again, Countdown to Infinite Crisis book. Whew! So, if you guys have more knowledge of this, which I am sure some of you will, because I don't really know it that well, please leave me comments below. Tell me like if I am going about this in the right way. I believe I am. I mean, from what I've checked online, there's a couple other books I need to look for. Villains United, I think, is one of them, or something like that. Secret Six one. I don't know, but yeah, those are what I have right now. I don't enjoy collecting all these random paperbacks and then having them on the shelf and then having an absolute. It's not the way I want to do it, but in lieu of the absolute, this is what, or in lieu of the omnibus rather, this is what we're going to be doing. So eventually, when the Infinite Crisis Absolute comes out, I'm sure I will be doing a Infinite Crisis series overview, read through of all of this stuff to tell you what I think about it. Moving on from that, washing our hands of that craziness. This is one that I did not think I was ever going to own, and I'm happy that I found it on the swap group that I'm on Facebook. This is the Mr. X Archives from Dean Motter, featuring art from a number of different artists, most notably the Hernandez brothers and the artist known as Seth. This was an indie like crime noir mystery sci-fi thing from the 80s, kind of a big deal in the American indie underground with getting a couple of these creators known, specifically, you know, the Hernandez brothers went on to do Love and Rockets and other things as well. But this was a Dark Horse collection from a couple years ago that is out of print now. It's not like super hard to find, but it's a bit pricey. And anyways, I found it for a really good price from a gentleman in the Comic Swap group, so thank you so much. I am forgetting your name completely. But I was able to get this, and I think I showed in one of my last hauls that I also picked up the Modern Age stuff, which Dark Horse just did. If I didn't show it, I did pick that up. which collects a lot of the Dark Horse miniseries when they relaunched Mr. X. This is the original run. I believe it's something around like 13 issues, 12, 13 issues. There was also a second run, which was like another 12, 13 issues, and I don't think people liked that very much. I think it had a lot less input from Dean Motter or anybody that people really loved. So I'm really just interested in this first run and then the Dark Horse stuff. And now that I have the two of them together in these nice Dark Horse Archive editions, I will be doing a read-through of that in the future and telling you what I think about it. Next up is a big one and kind of an interesting one. This is the massive Ninth Wave. It's interesting because it's a library edition size. It's quite large, but it's very thin. It's a tiny little library edition from Dark Horse. For the cover price is $25. I mean, you cannot beat the quality that Dark Horse puts out in these library editions. It's ridiculous. So, but it's just a very small mini-series, like a self-contained, I believe, prequel to what the Massive is. I think it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 issues, something like that. Yeah, Massive Ninth Wave 1 through 6. So just a 6-issue library edition, $25. I was not, I was very pleased with that, being able to pick it up for that price. Just a nice little thin library edition to add to my Dark Horse collection. They also have a Massive Volume 1 library edition, and I think there's a Massive Volume 2 library edition coming out soon. So all of the Massive stuff will be collected shortly, and I am looking forward to reading through that. Now it's time for a little Joe Kubert aside. As many of you know if you've watched the channel before, he's one of my favorite artists. So I found this cool little book, which is the Hawkman by Gardner F. Fox and Joe Kubert. Just like a trade paperback from, I mean, it looks like it's got to be from like the late 80s, early 90s. It's an older trade from 89 is the cover date on the illustration. I don't know if that means that it's around 1989 or so, but it's a cool book. It just collects some of the stuff that Fox and Kubert did where they relaunched Hawkman in the Silver Age. I don't know that much about Hawkman, but I love Joe Kubert to death. This collects The Brave and the Bold, 34 through 36, as well as 42 through 44. So not a very thick book, just a handful of issues. But it is basically, yeah, it was produced in 1989, it says on the front. But it was basically when they relaunched Hawkman, I think they gave him like a different identity or something and made him from a different planet that was different from how he was in the Golden Age. I don't really know that well, but this is the Joe Kubert stuff from that era. I love his art, so I was willing to check it out. I got it for pretty cheap at a used bookstore, and I think they're going for like, not crazy money, but it's something that people want because I don't think it's collected in very many other ways. So I'm not going to say it's rare or anything, but it's a nice little add to the collection. I also picked this up, and I don't know anything about it really at all. It's Abraham Stone, a Joe Kubert sort of graphic album. It's called Country Mouse City Rat. I don't know anything about this. I found it at a used bookstore local to me for really cheap as well. The guy has like a lot of crazy older kind of album style things. This is like a really large oversized printed book, but it's very thin. It's just a tiny little story. From what I understand, I guess Abraham Stone is like a series of graphic albums. I looked online. It seems like there's a couple of them from with the Abraham Stone character in it. I don't know anything about it. I think it is more like late, maybe 1991. So like later in Kubert's career, when he wasn't doing, I don't think like interiors at the big two anymore, or like for anybody like that. So I think he was doing more like graphic album stuff. Looks cool. Again, I would check it out based on any art and stuff that Kubert does. So whatever, it's cool by me. But I don't know that much about it, so I can't really recommend it. I know that there are other books in the series out there. One day when I find more of them, I will tell you what it's like. This is a really cool one that I did not know a lot about, and I picked it up at the same place that I found the Joe Kubert Abraham Stone stuff. It looks very cool, and I was so excited to get it, and then I was so disappointed to learn what it actually is. This is called Garth. It is a reprint of a British action comic strip series, also called Garth. This part of that series is written by Jim Edgar, illustrated by Frank Bellamy, And this is book 1, so I assumed that there were going to be a lot more books. It turns out there's only actually 2 books. It's kind of confusing, but basically this is a Titan Books collection. A lot of the stuff I have here is actually Titan, which you'll see in a moment. And Titan is a UK publisher, and they have done this previously where they collect action strips from UK newspapers, which are great. The UK had some amazing action strips. You can see there's this whole list of all of the different strips that are in this series right here. And it's awesome. I mean, it starts all the way back in 1943, and then it runs up to 1984. This run, I believe, collects the era of like the early 70s. Yeah, this starts collecting around 1971. And the original plan was for them to release a comprehensive full set of the Garth comic book strips, which I would love so much. Unfortunately, they only made it through 2 albums. And then, for whatever reason, I don't know if it was rights stuff or whatever, it just didn't happen. So it was weird. You know, Titan was in a strange spot in the 80s. They were reprinting a lot of the like Rogue Trooper and Judge Dredd stuff, a lot of 2000 AD stuff for the US market. They were also printing you know, these comic book strip style things like the sideways strip orientation. But I guess 2000 AD eventually started printing their own things. You know, they have their own copies of Judge Dredd collections and stuff. So I don't know. It didn't really pan out for Titan to some extent. Like some of the things that they were working on, I guess they lost rights to or weren't able to totally maintain the rights to. So I am very hopeful that one day we'll see a collection of this because the art is fantastic. It's a really cool black and white action strip, which I am totally into at the moment, as you'll see with the rest of my pickups. It's just so neat. So if anybody knows anything about Garth or you know, let me know. I saw that there's like a couple other collections here and there, books that are like one-off pieces collections, but there's nowhere out there that collects anything near the full, you know, 40-year run, which would be amazing. I would love to see that one day. And next we continue on with Titan with a huge stack of books that I have, and that is the Modesty Blaze books. I have gotten deeply into Modesty Blaze and specifically into this gentleman who was illustrating it named Enrique Badia Romero. He is fan-fucking-tastic. One of my absolute new favorite artists. I love his stuff. All right, Modesty Blaze and AXA, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. He illustrated a large chunk of both of them. They are strip comics, and they are, how should we say, lightly pornographic, or at least a little bit, you know, scandalous in some respects. High action, femme fatale. They're so cool. I love this time period. This stuff was like 60s, 70s, you know, black and white, once again, British newspaper strips. Modesty Blaze is great. So right here I have a couple of these books. I have The Puppet Master, Crywolf, Black Pearl, and The Gallows Bird. These were all done during the run where Peter O'Donnell was writing and Enrique Badia Romero was doing the art on it for most of them. There's a Jim Holdaway one in there as well. And those are all printed by Titan. I also have a couple of the older Titan books from like the 80s, which printed Modesty Blaze, because some of the newer printings of Modesty Blaze are quite hard to find and out of print. So I'm kind of like mixing older printings and newer printings, which is a bit of a bummer because they don't line up size-wise. If you see, like the new ones have like another inch on the old ones, and they're of a little bit higher quality. Eventually, when I have the time and resources, I will sit down and get a full collection of the newer printings, but these books are actually still coming out, the Modesty Blaze books. There's still one slated. There's like one for later in 2016. There's one for like 2017. The collection goes on. So if you're at all interested in this, I would recommend Googling Modesty Blaze and checking it out because it's awesome. They're really nice books, oversized, and they present the, you know, sideways newspaper strips in a nice way. The scan quality is a little bit hit or miss. Sometimes it's really nice, like on these pages, the lines and everything are really great. And other times, it seems like I can't find an example off the top of my head in these books, but it does seem sometimes like the whatever they were using, whether it was like reference copies or original art, I don't know, whatever it was, like sometimes the art is just not that great. Just the copy of what they have is not amazing. So unfortunately, it's a little bit hit or miss in that regard. You're not going to get like universally the best scans from the best original art, but I would recommend checking out Romero as an artist, and recommend checking out Modesty Blaze. And then moving on from Romero, I have in front of me, very happy to have, the full 9-issue set of AXA comics that was released in the US. This collects all of the AXA series 9, 8, 7 is upside down, 6, 5, 4, all these upside down, 3, 2, and 1. These are all of the AXA books that were released by, like, First American Edition series. It's confusing to me who actually put these out. I think it's like Ken Pierce or something like that is the name on some of it, but it's called the First American Edition. Either way, these are a little bit strange because they are standard size comic books, but they have strip style reprints in them. So the art is a little bit small, which is kind of a bummer. However, this is, as far as I know, the only way to get the AXA books in English, because I think that they were put out in Spanish originally. I might have said that they were UK earlier, but I think that they were put out in Spanish originally. I know Romero is Spanish, and these are great. These are fantastic. It's like a sword. It's like a Conan, if Conan was female and lost his top a lot. Like I said, also lightly pornographic stuff, a little bit risque here and there. Say what you want about Romero, but he knows how to draw a pair of breasts. Like, they are fantastic. His female figure is, like, so funny and idealized. It's great. I love AXA. It has, like, a very swashbuckly, like I said, sword and sorcery Conan feel, but then with kind of the femme fatale and, like, seductress aspect of it. I've not read much of it. I've only read sort of a cursory read-through of the first issue, but I'm going to read all of these along with Modesty Blaze and give you my thoughts on them, because I think it's a really cool and underserved, type of thing, these strip reprints, especially from the UK and Europe. There's so many cool ones, and it's like this AXA, the AXA stuff and the Modesty Blaze stuff alone is worth tracking down because they're so cool. If you don't mind the whole risky business, tops off kind of mentality that the whole thing runs with, I think it is well worth your time, and I will be doing some more coverage of it as I read it. I think, like I posted in long time ago in my original channel intentions, I very much have the goal of covering all kinds of strange, cool, and weird things that maybe people don't think of that often when they think of comic books. So I think this is definitely one of those things that falls in those categories, and I'm glad to be able to bring a little bit more light to it. So AXA stuff, really excited to get on. Modesty Blaze, really excited to get on. Garth seems really cool. Don't know if I'm going to be able to read much of it or any of it, really, because it doesn't exist in any collected format outside of, like, hunting down the UK newspapers, and, like, that's craziness. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this haul and this video. Just sort of giving you a little sneak preview of some of the things that I'm going to be covering eventually in my channel. If you enjoyed any of them or would like to see more coverage, please let me know. And if you have picked up or ever been interested in the same kind of stuff, yeah, let me tell me what it's all about, because I'm just diving into the world of this black and white, comic strip reprint stuff, and I absolutely love it. Especially Romero, man. You should check out his stuff. He also has a color album. Besides these 9 AXA books, there's a little slightly more oversized books that's called, like, the AXA Full Color Fantasy album. That's like a regular, comic issue style, not in, like, strip reprint style. It's really lovely. I am totally more of a black and white inks and pencils person, so the color aspect of it is not more or less appealing to me. It just sort of is. It's like, it's fine. It looks all right. But yeah, it's really neat, and I would love to own some of his original art. I actually saw at Baltimore Comic Con there was a Modesty Blaze original strip for like $300. I almost pulled the trigger on it because it was a nice one too. It was like Modesty fighting some guys, and so it was really cool. But yeah, you should check all this stuff out if you're interested in it, and can find it online at decent prices or in local comic shops, because it's just kind of weird oddities. So I hope you enjoyed this haul video. I will have more videos coming at you in the future, and in the meantime, you can check out all the other stuff that's on my channel, as well as our live streams of podcasts and book clubs every Sunday at 12 p.m. And book clubs are once a month, and Wednesday evening at the end of the month. Don't quote me on the Wednesday, that might change. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I will see you in the next Nerd Adventure.